Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joe Sked. This is going to be a brief reaction show to Saturday's game against Ross County and a wee look ahead to what the next week could bring. Heart of Midlothian won, finally. Not just that, but all but ensured that they will not be dragged into a battle to avoid 11th spot and that dreaded relegation playoff in the next three fixtures. The team are not mathematically safe. That should be noted. But I am going to take on myself to call it there. Hearts season is done, and with the final three fixtures not having the same pressure as they have over the last 4 or 5 weeks, and of course, still wanting to win those final three fixtures and finish on a high, but it does take that pressure off. Now, before we get into yesterday's game, we of course are Hearts here at Hearts Standard. Is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Now, let's just get straight into it and jump back to yesterday afternoon in Dingwall and the starting 11. Now, coming into it, Liam Fox said he wasn't just going to do the same things as he's done, or what's been done before. He did that with when he took over in interim charge after Stephen Naismith, and he was going to do the same after replacing Neil Critchley, who, along with Mike Gary, was sacked just over 7 days ago, and he was true to his word, playing a 4-3-3. I think there might be a few eyebrows raised at the starting 11 because there were starts for Kenneth Vargas and Alan Forrest on either side of Lawrence Shankland, and it was their first league start since December 15th, maybe. Anyway, that loss, that one at Rugby Park to Kilmarnock, the Cabby Devil missed out. He was one of the guys who was ill during the week, something that Liam Fox mentioned on Friday when he spoke to the press, just said that there was an illness at the start of the week and just don't think that Devlin had recovered in time. And then also Shankland, it should be noted that he had a hamstring issue, and when the team travelled up on Friday to Dingwall, I think there were doubts whether he would play, but he decided to risk it. And as I said, he played through the middle. And it's interesting that jumping ahead to after the match and what Liam Fox said about the decision not only to play Shankland for the middle, but the formation as well with Vargas and Forrest coming in. He said it was really simple. Just felt we needed a bit more speed and a bit more width in the team. Something probably I think a lot of Hearts fans would agree with. And he said these guys fit the profile I was looking for. And I think both of them had positive impacts on the game today. Obviously, Alan gets his goal, and I thought they impressed as the game went on, which we'll come to talk about later on. And in terms of Shankland for the middle, he was saying, if you put Lawrence Shankland in positions close to the goal and you work on how you're going to get the ball to him in supply and how you're going to score, 9 times out of 10, Lawrence Shankland will hit the back of the net. And yes, more about Shankland later on. I thought Hearts actually started quite well. There were moments of positive play, and I thought having not the disruption of the week, but the week where not only has the head coach departed, there's a lot of stuff off the field discussed. There's also the manager search, the Player of the Year awards. I think it was viewed as a difficult week for the team, and also add into the main thing, this game and the pressure that comes with it and how big it is. And it's something that if you're watching this on or listening to this on Sunday, Lawrence Shankland's quotes, he spoke to the press after the game. There was some interesting stuff about the dressing room beforehand and the feeling in there, which points to that realisation of how big a game it was for Hearts, and it didn't really show any nerves. I think there was a clear plan that Forrester and Vargas were played more as orthodox kind of wide men and fullback, whereas on the left, I thought it was quite interesting that Alan Forrest, Blair Spittle and James Penrice, they had this rotation, and it was clear that the work on the training ground, it was clear that they had been working on the training ground with this, with their movements and the way they interacted with one another. If one moved into space, someone would go the kind of almost the opposite way. It kind of seemed that there was always keen to have someone wide left, someone playing in like inside, making an having an option, and then a third person running beyond the ball or running forward. And yeah, they kind of rotated that. It was probably the most interesting aspect of it was James Penrice, who has been so good playing down the left hand side, offering width. He actually was more like an inverted fullback and played quite centrally. And I thought the team got some joy. There were openings for the, especially down the left. Alan Forrest had a few shots, but for all, and this goes back to an issue that's been the case this season, for all the team looked like threatening. They kind of never did make that next step, and threatening was kind of a similar story. You can kind of forgive maybe Forrest and Vargas with one moment, particularly with Vargas when he ran in the box and he miscontrolled it and ran out. And just like there was just that rustiness. Even Shankland, he had two moments where the ball came to him. One came dinked over the top, and another one where he just played into feet, and he just couldn't quite get the touch away. And the Hearts not taking advantage of that territory of the positive play, always leave themselves open to concede it, and that's what happened. It was too easy a goal in terms of, I think it was Noah Kenna was able to just kind of move forward and slip a ball at Ronan Hale. Now, don't take anything away from Hale. That was a fantastic finish, and he looks like a really good player. I think it was him that scored that really good goal at Tynecastle earlier in the season as well, when the teams drew 1-1. But yeah, it was too easy, and then that just adds to that uneasiness within the team, the nerves, the doubts, and at that moment you really are thinking, the crowd didn't really. I think there was frustration from the crowd towards the players, and that kind of continued until the equalizer. But the crowd turned in a way that it was more aimed at the board. Many of them, kind of key members were at Dingwall, but they were making their feelings clear as to who they see to blame for the season that's been, rather than focusing their frustration or anger on the players of the management team. But with all that, you worried about the concession of a second goal and where it would take Hearts. And it was probably the moment when I was really beginning to think that this is going to be bad, was when, just in terms of where the game was going and what it could mean, was when Shankland slipped in Forrest. I think it was towards the end of the first. It was towards the end of the first half, because Shankland would score not long after. But Forrest took a touch down his left, and then under pressure fired over the bar. That you look to the away support, and they were really frustrated, and you're just like, is it going to be another one of those days? But I think it was so important that the Shankland's goal came, and what I really liked about it was just how positive the players involved were. Kent moved in, played it forward to Benny in turn played it forward to Shankland, and Shankland made space. Nice finish. Keeper probably dived a bit too early, but you're not complaining about that. And it was such a crucial goal going into the dressing room at half time, because it changes the dynamic, both of the game, but also the feeling within the dressing room. And I think it was Fox that said it was a real shot in the arm for them. And seen that with the second half. There was an early scare. Craig Gordon, County had two pretty good chances in the space of seconds. Hale, can't remember exactly, probably should have watched the highlights back before doing this, but Hale had an effort, I don't know if it was blocked by Halkett maybe, and then Gordon made a really strong save from Jordan White. But from that moment onwards, Hearts looked really assured and confident rather than spooked, and you could see that confidence growing with both as the minutes passed and then the goal came. And I thought it really came to kind of reached its apex, if you will, for the second goal, where it was positive play, but it was really patient. And Bess summed up where it kind of went down the left with Halkett, then moved to the right, and got to Forrest, so Forrest was in a good position to have a shot. But then he, rather than do that, he made the correct decision. And that's going back to decision making in the final third. There's been a frustration this season. But he made the right decision to play Vargas down the right. And Vargas' cross was perfect, exactly what kind of ball that Shankland wants. And he wasn't on his toes. He wasn't on his heels, he was on his toes. There's a great clip that Hearts put up on their social media this morning that I think Ewan, the videographer for Hearts, got a really good angle on it, and it was Shankland did his movement where he was behind a couple of Ross County players. He's seen what was happening, and just a really good striker's run across the goal and toe poked into the bottom corner. Just a real striker's goal, and overall, Shankland was excellent. I'm sure you've heard me speak before, or you probably tell from my writing. Very big fan of Shankland, and personally, I would like him to stay if it was possible on his end, on Hearts' end. But it was real captain performance, and the Vargas and Forrest as well grew into the game, and I think the more they grew into the game, it allowed Shankland to do that. They gave Shankland space, and it worked against County's back three. My always concern was against the back three, you can just get really crowded out, especially for the one striker. But especially if they dropped into a back five, but that didn't happen, and Forrest and Vargas were able to stretch and give Shankland the space, but also allowed him to operate in areas where he's most dangerous. And that was probably something that to have to watch it back to confirm this, but it never felt like Shankland dropped too deep. He wasn't coming to the halfway line and getting involved. He was involved near the goal, whether it was building up play, whether it was linking with players, whether it was being a threat rather than dropping deep and doing that. On the flip side, I thought the midfield kept everyone ticking over. Everyone had a solid performance, but at the back, not really spoken or read much about it. But Halkett and Kent, I thought if McCart was going to play, then Kingsley would have been left-sided centre-back, but Fox went for Halkett and Kent, and it made sense because of the aerial threat that County posed with Jordan White. Kent was really good, but Halkett, shout out to them specifically because he had 14 aerial wins, nearly 3 times as many as both White and Kent, and he won 74% of his aerial duels, which is a really, really good number, and a really good number when you are up against someone like Jordan White. So it was just a really good, solid Scottish centre-back pairing performance, and in the end, it felt like it was a straightforward 3 points. It was actually over the piece, a really entertaining game, an enjoyable game to watch, and I suppose it's credit to Liam Fox as well. I know there was certainly fans who probably raised their eyebrows with Fox getting an interim job just because he was part of the previous management team, but I think just because you're part of a management team, I don't think not necessarily agree with everything that the head coach does. He's obviously the one that makes the decision, but I think it's healthy to have guys in your management, the coaching staff, where there is like a healthy debate, discussion or disagreement on how things should be played. And now Fox has, in 2 interim spells, has delivered 2 really important wins this season, going back to Minsk, the first one of the season, and now this one. And it was a good, it was just like a simple, just a simple idea, not overcomplicating approach, playing players in their best positions, getting the right balance within the team, and taking into account Ross County's strengths, i.e. the aerial threat with the set pieces and Jordan White, and just keeping football can be and probably should be kept simple. And I think that reflects in the players, and they've reacted to that as they reacted to previous interchange. So it was for the situation of going 1-0 behind. That was a really assured performance, and one that was really important and really big. And again, it takes pressure off this week, like looking ahead to the new head coach in terms of the urgency to bring someone in. I'd imagine if Hearts lost that, then they might be forced to act quicker. Whereas they can make sure they're taking the time to get the right man. And the Hearts are making progress with that. I'm speaking now, I don't know if there's going to be an appointment this week, but this week should allow the club to move closer to that appointment. Whenever that comes, we'll see. But understand the next head coach is likely to be someone with Scottish football experience. As ever in football, absolutely not ruling anything out or anyone out, because things like there'll be factors at play. Things can change. That's something certainly learned over the last years when it comes to like transfers or situations like that. Just there's so many moving parts that things can change. I know there'll be fans who want probably someone left field, whether it's a European or foreign appointment. That's maybe the best avenue in terms of one that will unite the fans. I think anyone who there's been a lot of names kind of kicking about in terms of the Scottish options, and I think most would see some fans question it or have doubts about it. But I think personally there's a lot of sense going with someone who knows Scottish football. Again, goes back to something that just mentioned Liam Fox was doing with the team. Don't overcomplicate things. The way Hearts are the position Hearts are at the moment, I think they could do with just a steady hand. I know I've read that piece about McInnes, steady hand, knows the league, and then you build from there. Like then McGlynn is another name that's been mentioned a lot. He has done a fantastic job with Falkirk. He's seen back-to-back promotions. I do think what goes against him in the eyes of a lot of fans will probably be his first spell at Hearts. He's a different coach, and I would imagine that take his Hearts past away, and if we didn't have that Hearts past, you'd probably look at the work he's done at Falkirk, and you're like, well, he should be a candidate. So whether either of those are actual candidates or they come to pass, we'll see. We'll see what the next week brings. But it's certainly going to be a better week, a more enjoyable week than it has been in the past, because Hearts won a game of football and have taken a lot of pressure off the rest of the season, thankfully. And we've got, rather than having potentially 5 games left, we should, barring a remarkable collapse and set of results, only have 3 games left of the season and look ahead to a summer where there could be a lot of change. But I will leave it there. Apologies for those who watch on YouTube and Facebook and like to interact and comment, but when it's just a solo show, I think it's harder to talk and monitor the comments, and I find it hard to talk at the best of times. So when I'm trying to do 2 things at once, it becomes very difficult, and I will go off on tangents or lose my train of thought or just become even more of a rambling mess. But we'll be back back this week with myself and Craig, or with guests. We'll see what happens. We'll see what this week brings. But in the meantime, keep up to date with all things Hearts at heartstandard.co.uk, and don't forget to like and subscribe, or review and subscribe depending on what platform you listen to. And yeah, we'll be back. Have a good week. Goodbye.